WandaVision is back with its third episode and all the glory of the 70s. There's pregnancy bellies, color, and a magical stork. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? How's it going? If you don't know me, my name is Aiden. If you do, welcome back. I'm just gonna say it now because I forgot last time. Spoiler warning. Go watch the episode before you watch this. Unless you don't care about spoilers, then watch the episode anyway. So like last time, I'm going to recap the episode, share my reactions to it, and I'm going to theorize about where it's going maybe. Let's get into it. First episode, Wanda and Vision find themselves in a 50s style sitcom, and Vision has to host his boss for dinner, which ends with the boss almost choking to death. We meet Agnes, the nosy neighbor, and a couple other neighbors, and that's pretty much it for this episode. Second episode, Wanda and Vision try to integrate more into their neighborhood, attending a planning committee meeting, a neighborhood watch meeting, and culminating in a talent show fundraiser. Notably, Wanda finds a toy helicopter in the bushes with a sword logo on it. Wanda is contacted by a mysterious voice over a radio. Neighbor Dottie acts suspicious of Wanda. Wanda is suddenly pregnant, and a man in a beekeeper costume, also donning the sword symbol, crawls out of the sewer, which is undone by Wanda. Besides Dottie, we also meet a few other neighbors, including Geraldine. So that brings us to episode 3. Episode 3 almost exclusively takes place in Wanda and Vision's home, now styled for the 70s a la Brady Bunch. The episode begins with a doctor checking the health of Wanda's unborn child, and Vision, understandably, has a lot of questions about how she's 4 months pregnant after 12 hours. This is not taken too seriously, however, and the doctor finishes up and leaves for vacation. Outside, Vision notices Herb cutting through his concrete fence with hedge cutters somehow. Back inside, Wanda has gone from 4 months pregnant to 6 months pregnant. The two read up on pregnancy facts as Wanda decorates the nursery and she starts to feel the baby kicking. At the same time, the butterflies hanging from the mobile over the crib come to life and Wanda asks if she did that. They discuss baby names, Wanda liking Tommy for being all-American and Vision liking Billy after William Shakespeare. The scene ends with Wanda finishing a painting of a stork on the wall. Wanda soon starts experiencing false labor, which happens in the 3rd trimester, and as the discomfort sets in, things start going crazy in the house. Lighting overloading, the fridge shooting out ice, the sink running on its own. Then just as quickly as it started, it stopped. Vision goes to check on the neighbors, and when he returns, Wanda expresses concern over the neighbors finding out their secret. Vision feels the same way, but also expresses concern over the strange things that have been happening in the last 2 episodes. However, Wanda does not seem to be okay with this and appears to rewind time again, though with a skip effect this time instead. And now Vision reassures her that everything will work out in the end. Wanda then starts having real contractions and her water breaks, causing it to rain in the house. We get an ad break here showing a housewife being overwhelmed by various presumably everyday things, and the solution is hydrosoak, which I guess is the equivalent of a bath bomb. Are you overburdened by things that shouldn't just be on your shoulders? Well, take a bath. It's fine. Get over it. Back with the couple, Wanda sends Vision to get the doctor, who we see was unable to go on his vacation because his car broke down just as he was about to leave. Wanda hears a strange noise coming from the nursery, but is distracted by the arrival of Geraldine, who says she needs a bucket since all the pipes burst in her house. Trying to hide her bump, Wanda hides herself in a coat, which keeps magically changing into different coats each time she has a contraction. When Geraldine comes to the kitchen, Wanda hides her belly behind fruit, and Geraldine proceeds to tell Wanda the story of how she got a promotion. At the same time, a stork walks out of the nursery and wanders around the house. Wanda attempts to get rid of it, but for some reason this doesn't work. Geraldine almost discovers the bird, but is reassured by Wanda that it's nothing. As the stork is about to completely out itself, tugging at Geraldine's pant leg, Geraldine finishes her story and it runs back to the nursery where, unfortunately, Geraldine also goes for some office supplies. To her surprise, the spare room is now a nursery, and Wanda can no longer hide her imminent labor from her. Geraldine is befuddled to learn that Wanda is pregnant, but walks her through the process, and Wanda gives birth to baby Tommy. Vision and the doctor then show up, and Vision is understandably a bit bummed that he missed it. Wanda, though, encourages him to meet his son as himself, so Vision changes his face back to regular, which was very sweet. He also calls the baby Tommy, which is another really nice moment between he and Wanda. But they're not done yet, and Wanda gives birth to another baby, Billy. Transition to Vision saying goodbye to the doctor, who states that he won't be going on vacation because small towns are, quote, impossible to escape. Vision also notices Agnes and Herb acting sketchy, and when he confronts them, they ask if Geraldine is in the house with Wanda. They claim that she isn't like them because she has no family and no home, and Herb almost tells Vision what's going on before he is stopped by Agnes. At the same time, Wanda and Geraldine are in the house, and Wanda reveals that she's a twin and that her brother's name was Pietro. She sings a Sokovian lullaby to her twins, and Geraldine, maybe foolishly, says,
"He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?"
This was evidently not the right move, and Wanda immediately becomes hostile towards Geraldine, asking her about her sword necklace and accusing her of not being who she says she is. Once Vision comes back into the house and asks where Geraldine is, Wanda, in a super creepy shot, tells him she had to rush home. Cut to Geraldine being expelled from the reality to a military compound of sword agents, and we get a wider shot of the dome-looking pocket reality she was in. End of episode. Alright, so a lot happened here. The most notable thing is obviously the status quo change. We now know officially that Wanda knows way more than she's telling us, which is kind of interesting because it more positions her as an anti-hero a little bit than a hero. This is mostly already in line with what I thought was going on, and again, I really like that it means that it's Wanda driving the story. I want to preface my full take though with who I think the villain is. So last time I brought up that a lot of people have said that Mephisto might be the villain of this series, and I'm starting to think that's true. If Mephisto is kind of like a devil kind of character, then it makes a lot of sense. My take is that Wanda basically made a deal with the devil to get everything that she wanted. An all-American family life, she gets Vision back, she gets to be in a happy world where the problems are all very low stakes and everything works out in the end. But because it's a deal with the devil, there's a cost. The most obvious is that all of these people are now trapped here with her against their will, and this episode made very clear that the neighbors know more than they're letting on. I don't know if they're afraid of Wanda, and maybe that's why they always act perfectly in front of her, but a little less in front of Vision, as they were kind of willing to tell him stuff here, or if they're afraid of some larger villain who they know will come after them if they try and tell Vision what's going on. The main reason though that I think this is because of the role of the children in this story. We saw in episode 2 that the idea of children was very much pushed onto Wanda and Vision, and that episode ended with her being pregnant. In this episode now, we see that Wanda has her babies, and they're evidently very powerful. This isn't directly supported by the text yet, but there's a lot of theories, and based on the comics, her kids are very powerful. Billy specifically is theorized to be the one who's been changing her coats and making the butterflies come to life. It would make sense then that that would be the cost of Wanda's happiness, as they are very powerful, and this is clearly something a villain could use. This also, I think, explains the stork and why Wanda wasn't able to get rid of it. The stork was not something that was part of this pocket reality. The stork was actually the villain manifesting as a stork. Hence also why anytime she tried to use these abilities, there was red smoke instead, which that could just be a power of Wanda's, but also it's red smoke, and that's villainous. It's also ironic and good foreshadowing that he appears as a stork, because in mythology, storks are the things that bring babies to families, which he has done, but ironically, he will also be the thing that takes them away. On the topic of Vision, this episode makes the story with him and Wanda even more tragic. In the last episode, Wanda was clearly trying to ignore the outside world and thus wiping that from Vision's memory, which is kind of bad. But in this episode, she is actively erasing his ability and his drive to investigate and help others because it doesn't fit in with her fantasy perfect reality, which is really tragic. It's sad, and it kind of, I'm sure Wanda will realize this eventually, but it kind of takes away from who Vision is. He's not in reality just this typical sitcom human dad. He's Vision. He's a superhero. And like I said before, I think their relationship is just going to rot even more. I'm sure they'll work it out in the end, but I think it's really interesting to see how that's going to get worse over time. What I like about this show is that it's obviously about trauma and how not dealing with your trauma not only hurts you, but it hurts the people around you. And I really like how they've been exploring that so far, and how I imagine they're going to explore it further. Wanda is in this position now where she is almost a villain in her own right. That last shot of her is very villainous, and it's sad to see her really be all consumed by this pain that she feels and her reluctance to really accept it and confront it. Even in the scene with Geraldine, like, yes, they don't know each other super well, and maybe Geraldine was overstepping, but you can also read that as Geraldine metaphorically reaching out her hand to Wanda, offering her help, but Wanda straight up refuses this and lashes out. There is one glimmer of hope, though. One, this is a Marvel series, and I expect the hero characters to, come out on the other side. But specifically in this episode, Wanda is actually the one who brought up Pietro. Not Geraldine, not Vision, not anyone. Wanda brought him up. So to me, that's a good sign that she's at least thinking about it, and that maybe emotionally she'll get to a point where she can really deal with her loss and hopefully find acceptance. So I really like this episode. I think in terms of pure entertainment, the second episode is still my favorite. I also feel like the pacing of this one was a little weird, maybe just because they were just in one location the whole time, and so it kind of felt like one long scene instead of a whole episode, but I also don't know if that's a bad thing. I haven't really decided yet. This one, though, I think does a really good job of setting the tone for where the show is going to go, and I do understand why the reviewers who got the first 3 episodes before the show started were kind of concerned that people weren't going to be on board after just the first 2 episodes. I'm obviously on board, but I get what they mean. My last thing is that I love that final shot of Wanda in this episode where it transitions from the 4x3 to the 16:9. Obviously, they're literally doing that because we're going from this 70s fantasy world to the real world. But I think from a directing standpoint and an editing standpoint, that's a really cool choice because this is the point in the story where the curtain is really being lifted and we as an audience unambiguously know, okay, Wanda knows more than she originally let on. We know this now. There's no going back. And I just think it's kind of cool how the shot sort of reflects that, like, we as an audience in a way are removed from the fantasy. We know more of what's really happening. Anyway, those are my thoughts and theories on episode 3 of WandaVision. What did you guys think? Did you have a different take? If you were on the fence about this show before, did this episode make you fall one way or the other? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you all later. Bye!